Right, so we have everything ready to go back onto this frame. The carburetors are all done. I'm going to push them together. As you can see on this carburetor here, it's got a connecting pipe there and a little fuel line balancer that goes into that one, and that's exactly the same on that side. I've already pushed these two together. Okay, I'll leave the tops off, as you'll see why in a minute when I get it back on the frame, but I'm just going to push these two together and then I'm going to put everything back on the frame. The only bit of pre-assembly I am doing now is these rubbers on here, because they're a bit fiddly to get on when they're like that. So on this side here they are. So on these you put the flat side, this flat long side, onto that bit there, and because it's quite old, this rubber, I've got to be very careful with it, so I don't even know if these are available anymore. Probably not. So they're on those rubbers, and then these two carburetors are ready to be pushed back together. Right, they've gone back in great. Just got to make sure that this little bit here for these butterflies I'll put in the right place, and that the pipe's joined in there, which it is, so that's good. So that's them two. For the bank of four, you've got a similar arrangement here with that fuel pipe that goes in there, and there's also this little stud here just to keep the two carburetors blocks together, so that get pressed in there like that. This shot is a little out of sequence. I'd already assembled the carburetors and put them all back together on this backing plate, but the one thing I didn't do was fit the spring, and you need this spring in place to be able to adjust the carburetors. That little bit earlier where I mentioned the stud went between the carburetors, that is actually where the spring locates. So as I put it all back together, I was really struggling to fiddle this spring into place, so I've actually taken the back plate back off again and managed to squeeze the spring in down here. Managed to get the spring into the little bar that goes across between the two carburetors. So I'm just going to pop the back plate on. You can actually lift it out and just spread it a bit and get the spring in. I've actually got a spring puller tool, which really helps, or if not, a bit of bent wire, and that just hooks around and pulls it into place. So that's all ready to go again. So although it's a bit out of sequence, at least I found that out now, rather than getting it back on the bike and trying to get the spring on. Again, making sure that that's in there. Right, that's all in. Great. Good stuff. Right, the next step is to get this back plate on. Just got to be careful of this bit here where the choke fits in. Needs to just push down into place there, and then all the screws can go back in. But this next part where these little clips and springs and little runners go, it's quite fascinating when you consider how it all goes back together, and I'll show you that now. Right, they're all screwed back in nicely. Just going to give them a little nip. It's on this backing plate to go back in one unit. Right, so just looking at these parts here, what we've got is this block here. Now these balls just here, this one, and the one which is actually on the end of there as well. So there's that one. Let's pull that back up here. This is one of the reasons I left these off. You can fiddle them in and out while you've got them off. So that's why I've lift the cap off, because you can pull these slides right back. Gives you more room to get at these ball position things here. But that's going to go on to there. Is that hole. So the idea is that you have this spring goes in first, and then this little thing goes in, and the ball actually rides on top of that. And then, as you can see here on this component that screws into that bit there, so that'll go into there. That's also got one of these little, call them riders for the want of a better word, as you can see there. So that'll sit on top of the ball and roll. It comes to the caps, you've got the same principle. You've got your cap, a spring that pushes it down. This little thing will ride on top of the ball, and then down in there, which is almost impossible to see, you can see that when you've got a torch, it's got one of those already into it, whether it's pressed in or whether it's just been jammed in, I don't know, but either way it doesn't really matter. But that's how it works. So that's all the components ready to go back in. Now you can fiddle these in. So let's have a fiddle. This is where this rubber pre-assembly bit I think was a good idea. Now I've already fitted my chaser and little nodule. Get that out of the way. And that sneaks in like that. Maybe you didn't see that, but there is just enough room to get those on. Be very careful with this, because these rubbers are pretty old. There we go. Right, that spring's not working, so I must have missed it. Right, it's back down in place. That's on. Good, and that's in there. You can feel that on its spring there. Perfect. Oh, the next bit that goes in there is that follower. So that's that follower going in. And then a spring. And then your cap. Oops. And the same thing happens on the other side. Spring, follower, jiggle it, jiggle it into position. Just get this up to there, get this past this, get that out of the way, come here. I'm just going to lift this up to get this on. on. Rubber. Yeah. On. That one on. So it is possible to do it while it's in position. So that's all done nicely. We need to put the spring in and the follower. Follower and spring. Put the cap on. Make sure it's not cross-threaded. And then the final bit is this bit here. Now, because these have already got springs in the bottom, they don't need any more. So they go in there like that. I'm going to go ahead and set these carburetors up a bit later. But you get the idea. And the other side's just a repeat of that. Right, I'll just put those in Pro Tem for now, because when I come to balance the carburetors I'll be able to have to do it visually so that they all open together at exactly the same time, and on those lifters as well, just to keep these completely balanced. So we'll adjust that on these adjusters here. So now I've got my spring in place that keeps the slides in the down position. I'm going to start adjusting these adjusters. So to set these carburetors up, and this is based on information that I've cobbled together from reading the different manuals and watching another video which I didn't seem to understand, so I'll try and make mine a bit easier too. And the advice on the overhead cam SOH single overhead cam forums, this is the method that you use. So the first thing I'm going to do is set one carb up, and this is the adjuster I'm going to use. This is on carburetor number 4, and the reason I'm choosing that one is because that's the one that's got the idler screw here. So you're supposed to back that out completely so there's no thread showing, and so that that's back as far back that way as it'll go. At the moment you can see that there's a gap here, and what you do is you turn the screwdriver adjuster down until that stops moving. Right, so that's down as far as it can go. Yeah, it's just on the point of balance there. So that's got that down to the bottom. Now the next thing you do is you open that slide up using the air screw, and the idea is to lift that slide up there until you can get a drill in here. Some people say an 1/8, some people say a 1/16. I'm actually using a 3mm. I'm told that works just as well. So that goes in there between the bottom of the slider. It's just not quite fitting in, so I'll just open that up a touch more. Yeah, so that now goes in, that 3mm. You can see that. This is hard to see. Yeah, so this 3mm drill is just like a feeler gauge, just a nice tight squeeze. And then what we're going to do is go along each of these carburetors and set all these slides to the same. As you can see here, this one's wide open and that one's wide open. Yeah, so these now all need to be set to this first one, and it's just a case of going along and using those adjusters to bring them down to the right place. So just closing that up. So I can't really do this while I've got the camera on there, but yeah, so I'll just adjust that till they're all the same, and then that's them done. So the final stage just is to lock these off with an 8mm spanner. Obviously this is only a visual check, and we can do these later with a set of vacuum gauges once we've got this all sorted. And that, I'm told, will be perfect for starting, and I'll let you know. Okay, so that's the end of that bit, and the next video I'm going to put the carburetors back onto the bike with that airbox, and I think I've come up with a solution to get that airbox on. I'm halfway through making a tool, but I'm pretty certain it'll work, and I'll show you that in the next video. Well, thanks for watching. Don't forget, as they all say, to like and subscribe. Oh, I'm not going to say that ever again. I'm so sorry. Right, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.